Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina leaves Dhaka for New York tomorrow to attend the 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly. President Mohammad Shahabuddin returns home, wrapping up his visit to Indonesia and Singapore. Bangladesh Railway successfully completes test run of a freight train today between Mawa and Bhanga via Podda Bridge. Canadian Senator Salma Ataullah Jan highly lauds Bangladesh's development under leadership of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un inspects Russian warplanes and other military installations. And Sri Lanka to face India in the Asia Cup 2023 final in Colombo tomorrow. Assalamu alaikum. This is News at 10 on BTV and BTV World. I'm Mahmoud Rahman. Those were the headlines. Let's move on now to the details.
রক্ত যখন দিয়েছি রক্ত আরো দেব এই দেশের মানুষকে মুক্ত করে ছাড়বো ইনশাআল্লাহ এবারে সংগ্রাম আমাদের মুক্তির সংগ্রাম এবারে সংগ্রাম স্বাধীনতার সংগ্রাম
Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina will leave Dhaka for New York tomorrow to attend the 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly, UNGA. A VVIP flight of Biman Bangladesh Airlines carrying the Premier and her entourage members will depart from Hazrat Shah Jalal International Airport at 9:45 a.m. The flight is scheduled to land at the JFK International Airport, New York, at 10:50 p.m. New York time on September the 17th, after a 4-hour stopover at the Heathrow Airport in London. During her stay in New York from September 17th to 22nd, the Premier will attend the first day of the high-level general debate of the 78th UNGA session at the General Assembly Hall of the UN headquarters on September the 19th, while she will address it on September the 22nd between 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. local time. Sheikh Hasina was also invited to join a dinner hosted by US President Joe Biden on September 19th as well. On the sidelines of the UNGA session, she will also attend a number of high-level side events, including Rohingya and climate change, Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, universal health and finance, alongside taking part in several bilateral and courtesy meetings. The Prime Minister is expected to deliver a keynote speech at a high-level conference titled Thought for Food Collaborating for Food Supply Chain Innovation to Accelerate the SDGs, organized by the UNIDO and Deloitte at Rockefeller Center, New York on September the 18th. She will also address another conference titled SDG Summit Leaders Dialogue 4. During the visit, UN Secretary-General, UN High Commissioner for Refugees, UN Secretary-General's Genocide Advisor, newly elected International Organization for Migration, IOM Director-General, World Health Organization, WHO Director-General, and International Atomic Agency Director-General will pay courtesy call on the Prime Minister. The Bangladesh Premier is likely to hold bilateral meetings with Prime Minister of Denmark, Mette Frederiksen, and President of Sri Lanka, Ranil Wickremesinghe, at bilateral booth, UNHQ. President Mohammad Shahabuddin returned home, wrapping up his visit to Indonesia and Singapore. A VVIP aircraft of Bangladesh Biman Airlines carrying the President and his entourage members landed at Hazrat Shah Jalal International Airport this evening. Liberation War Affairs Minister A.K.M. Mozammel Haq, Dean of the Diplomatic Corps, Cabinet Secretary, Chiefs of the three services, Principal Secretary to the Prime Minister, Indonesian Ambassador to Bangladesh, Inspector General of Police and high civil and military officials received the President at the VVIP lounge of the airport. Earlier on September the 8th, President Mohammad Shahabuddin flew to Singapore for medical check-up from Indonesia. During his visit to Indonesia, the President attended the 43rd ASEAN Summit, the 18th East Asia Summit, and had several bilateral meetings on the sidelines of the summits at Jakarta Convention Center. The Bangladesh president went to Jakarta on September the 4th to attend the 43rd ASEAN Summit and the 18th East Asia Summit at the invitation of his Indonesian counterpart, Joko Widodo. Speaker Dr Shirin Sharmin has said Bangladesh is rich in handicrafts and artistry since time immemorial. She said bilateral cooperation must be increased in the preservation, development and publicity of traditional and culturally important handicrafts. The speaker said this as she visited the office and training centre of Sri Lanka National Handicraft Association in Kandy today. She said artisans involved with handicrafts and artifacts should be provided with training, and their social status needs to be raised to keep them engaged in their profession, as there is a worldwide demand for artifacts and handicrafts. Dr Shirin Sharmin said the people of Bangladesh and Sri Lanka are enjoying a friendly relationship, and there is a commonality between artistry and handicrafts of the two countries. So emphasis should be laid to boost the existing friendly relations in this field, she added. Following the movement of a passenger train, a freight train ran today between Mawa and Bhanga via the Podda Bridge to check the speed. The train ran at a speed of 80 kilometers, which is a record for any freight train in the country. This rail track was built so that heavy freights could be carried through it. This track will be connected to the Trans-Asian Railway. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina will inaugurate the 82-kilometer Dhaka-Bhanga portion on October the 10th. Later, passenger and freight trains will start running on the track. A freight train will take 54 minutes to travel the 42 kilometers between Mawa and Bhanga at a speed of 60 kilometers. Canadian Senate Human Rights Committee Chair Salma Ataullah highly lauded Bangladesh's development under Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Senate is the upper chamber of Canadian Parliament. Bangladesh's Information and Broadcasting Minister, Dr Hassan Mahmood, now visiting Canada, held a meeting with Senator Salma Ataullah at Holiday Inn on Friday afternoon, Toronto's local time. Recalling her visits to Bangladesh, the senator said the country led by Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina achieved unique successes in socio-economy, especially in women empowerment, control of population growth, tackling fundamentalism and militancy, alongside ensuring communal harmony. Senator Salma Ataullah also praised Sheikh Hasina for sheltering approximately 13 lakh Rohingyas and supporting their repatriation to Myanmar for a permanent solution to the problem. Speaking on the occasion, Dr Hassan Mahmood stressed the need for political stability to continue the present trend of development and progress in Bangladesh. Senator Ataullah apprised Information and Broadcasting Minister Dr Hassan Mahmood that she has a plan to visit Bangladesh again at the beginning of next year.
I have seen firsthand the progress that Bangladesh has made, and as I've always commented, under the leadership of Sheikh Hasina, we have seen great leaps. Whether it is in the clothing industry, Bangladesh has most of that covered, and also, the way you have resettled the Rohingya refugees, that is also a tribute to Bangladesh, Bangladesh's people and the leadership of Bangladesh. And I'm looking forward to my next trip, inshallah.
Earlier, Information and Broadcasting Minister Dr Hassan Mahmood had a meeting with Salma Jahid, MP, chairperson of Canadian Parliament's Immigration and Citizenship Affairs Permanent Committee. During the meeting at her residential office at Toronto's Scarborough area, Dr Hassan Mahmood talked about shifting of Canada's visa office to Dhaka for Bangladeshis and inclusion of Bangladeshi students to Canada's student direct stream. They expressed satisfaction over bilateral trade between the two nations. Dr Hassan Mahmood stressed the need for progress in signing Foreign Investment Protection Agreement to increase Canadian investment in Bangladesh. Salma Jahid MP lauded Bangladesh's development and progress under Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and hoped that this trend will continue based on political stability. Bangladesh's High Commissioner to Canada, Khalilur Rahman, was present at the two meetings. The dengue situation across the country continues to exacerbate as over 2,000 have been infected and 14 died during the last 24 hours. A press release of the Directorate General of Health Services said among the dead, 5 were in Dhaka and 9 were outside Dhaka. 2,598 dengue patients were admitted to different hospitals across the country during the last 24 hours. Among them, 881 dengue patients were hospitalized in Dhaka city and 1,717 patients outside Dhaka. However, there were no deaths from COVID-19 in the last 24 hours. The country reported 19 COVID-19 positive cases out of 1,162 tested in the last 24 hours. Corona infection rate was reported at 1.64%. Now, international news. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un inspected warplanes, toured an airfield and visited a Pacific Fleet frigate on Saturday as the latest stop on his tour of Russia took him to Vladivostok. Russian state media reported that Kim had met the Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu at the Kenavechi airfield in Vladivostok, before both men were accompanied by the Commander-in-Chief of the Russian Navy, Admiral Nikolai Evmenov, on a visit to the Pacific Fleet frigate, Marshal Shaposhnikov. The North Korean leader was shown the ship's central command center and its modern missile weapon control systems, the Russian Ministry of Defense said via telegram. The stop in Vladivostok is Kim's latest in a tour of Russia and its Far East region that follows his meeting with President Vladimir Putin earlier this week, at which the North Korean leader appeared to endorse Moscow's war on Ukraine. The meeting has led to speculation around the potential for some kind of military cooperation between Moscow and Pyongyang. The death toll in Libya's coastal city of Derna has soared to 11,300 as search efforts continue following a massive flood fed by the breaching of 2 dams in heavy rains. The Libyan Red Crescent said another 10,100 people are reported missing in the Mediterranean city. Health authorities previously put the death toll in Derna at 5,500. The storm also killed about 170 people elsewhere in the country. The mayor of Derna said the tally could climb to 20,000, given the number of neighborhoods that were washed out. There are fears for survivors in the city of Derna, with not enough medicine and clean water for those who have been made homeless. The flooding swept away entire families in Derna on Sunday night and exposed vulnerabilities in the oil-rich country that has been mired in conflict since a 2011 uprising that toppled long-ruling dictator Muammar Gaddafi. US President Joe Biden will push for greater action to tackle the climate crisis, fund development in the global south, and bolster support for Ukraine and Russia's invasion when world leaders hold high-level talks at the United Nations next week. Speaking to reporters, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said the US President was eager to use his trip to New York City for the 78th session of the UN General Assembly to advance US interests and values on a range of issues. The US President will meet with several world leaders during the event, Sullivan said, including Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Approximately 150 heads of state and government ministers are due to turn up in person next week for the General Assembly, which offers a chance for countries to present issues of particular concern in a series of live public speeches. 2 Russian cosmonauts and an American astronaut docked with the International Space Station on Friday after blasting off amid raging tensions between Moscow and Washington over Ukraine. Earlier Friday, Roscosmos cosmonauts Oleg Kononenko and Nikolai Chubb and NASA astronaut Laurel O'Hara lifted off from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan aboard the Soyuz MS-24 spacecraft. The crew docked at the ISS 3 hours later, the Russian space agency said. At the orbiting station, the trio will join 3 Russians, 2 Americans, a Japanese astronaut, and a representative of the European Space Agency. The liftoff took place after Russia's first lunar mission in nearly 50 years failed last month. The ISS is a rare venue for cooperation between the United States and Russia, whose ties broke down after Moscow unleashed its offensive in Ukraine last year. Now some other international news in brief. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said that the normalization of relations between Saudi Arabia and Israel remains difficult and that any agreement between the two should address issues with Palestine.
Security, grounded in energy, and then in more recent years grounded in dealing with terrorism. But now we see
grain export.
Poland, Slovakia and Hungary will impose their own restrictions on Ukrainian grain imports, the government said, after the European Commission decided not to extend a ban affecting Ukraine's 5 EU neighbours.
Has fallen through. So sellers have been sending serious.
Canada has announced it would postpone an October trade mission to India in the midst of strained relations between the two countries.
Long, complex processes, and we've paused to take stock of where we are. The statement came just ahead of a trip by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to New Delhi next week. Last month, a top Indian trade official said New Delhi plans to hold trade talks with Canada and other nations.
A Belgian court handed out sentences ranging up to life in prison to 8 men for the 2016 jihadist bombings in Brussels, ending the country's largest ever criminal trial.
Ranging from 20 years to life in jail. Salah Abdeslam was the main suspect in the trial, the Paris attacks that killed 130 people.
Photograph of a huge plasma arc next to the Andromeda Galaxy, the closest large spiral galaxy to the Milky Way, has won the 2023 Astronomy Photographer of the Year competition for a team of amateur astronomers.
One of the most interesting things is the phenomenal power of the stars, the explosions that we're seeing.
With the 12th parliamentary elections in mind, the anti-liberation BNP Jamaat Alliance, Dr Yunus, and some controversial international organizations are making ill efforts to destabilize the country and create chaos. Leaders of the Peshajibi Samonnoy Porishod, a platform of different professionals, have called for resisting these evil forces for the greater interest of the country. They made the call at a discussion in the capital today titled Mukti Juddher Chetona Ebong Agamir Bangladesh. President of Peshajibi Samonnoy Porishod, Professor Dr Kamrul Hassan Khan, presided over the discussion. Awami League Advisory Council member, Advocate Yusuf Hussain Humayun, Vice Chancellor of Dhaka University, Professor Dr Mohammad Akhtaruzzaman, President of Economic Council, Professor Dr Abul Barakat, President of Engineers Institution of Bangladesh and Awami League Science and Technology Affairs Secretary, Engineer Abdus Sabur, Managing Director of Bangladesh Sangbad Songstha BSS, Abul Kalam Azad, Jatiyo Press Club President Farida Yasmin, among others, spoke. Referring to ongoing democracy and ongoing development spree in the country led by Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, they said every citizen of the country has to be alert against any anti-state conspiracy to ensure a developed country by 2041 and smart Bangladesh. Sammilita Sankritik Jot has started a cultural awakening program across the country with a view to upholding the spirit of communal harmony and the liberation war of Bangladesh. The theme of the program is Amar Desh Sampritir Bangladesh. The program was launched at the Central Shahid Minar in the capital today, which is being held simultaneously in 10 districts across the country. Later, the program will be held in 64 districts and 500 upazilas of the country. President of Sammilita Sankritik Jot, Golam Kuddus, chaired the inaugural function. The function was also addressed by Vice President of Sammilita Sankritik Jot, drama personality Jhuna Chaudhary, General Secretary Ahkamullah, President of Nritya Shilpi Songstha, Freedom Fighter Minu Haq, President of Pathonatok Council Mizanur Rahman, Pro-Vice Chancellor of Dhaka University, Poet Professor Dr Mohammad Samad, and General Secretary of Shotten Shilpi Goshti, Manjar Chaudhary Sweet. Referring to local and international conspiracies ahead of the upcoming general election, the Speaker said that the defeated forces of 1971 are conspiring not only to change power, but also to change the ideology of Bangladesh. Eminent cultural personalities and artists and representatives of all cultural organizations participated in the inaugural function. Now, weather. Met Office, in its weather forecast till 6 p.m. tomorrow, said light to moderate rain or thunder showers accompanied by temporary gusty wind is likely to occur at many places over Chattogram Division, at a few places over Dhaka, Mymensingh, Khulna, Borishal and Sylhet divisions, and at 1 or 2 places over Rajshahi and Rangpur divisions. Besides, moderately heavy falls are also likely at places over the country. Day and night temperature may remain nearly unchanged over the country, said the Met Office. On now to some sports news. Six-time champion Sri Lanka will take on record 7-time champions India in the final of the Asia Cup tomorrow. The match will start at 3:30 p.m. Bangladesh Standard Time at the R. Premadasa Stadium in Colombo. Meanwhile, Bangladesh beat India by 6 runs in the last match of the Super 4 last night to move to the 7th position of the ODI rankings. However, if India lose to Sri Lanka in Sunday's final, Bangladesh will drop from 7 to 8. The Tigers currently have a 94 rating points, while Sri Lanka's rating point is 93. Bangladesh Cricket Board, BCB, has announced a 15-member squad for the first and second ODI of the 3-match series against New Zealand in Dhaka. Batsman Liton Kumar Dash will lead the side in the absence of regular captain Shakib Al Hasan, who has been rested, along with Mushfiqur Rahim, Mehdi Hassan Miraz and the pace trio of Tashkin Ahmed, Hassan Mahmood and Shariful Islam. There was no place for batters Naim Sheikh, Afif Hussain and Shamim Hussain, who were all part of the squad in the Asia Cup. Tamim Iqbal, Mahmudullah Riyad, Shomo Sharkar and Qazi Nurul Hassan Chauhan returned to the side. The uncapped players in the squad are left-hander Zakir Hassan, pacer Syed Khalid Ahmed and leg spinner Rishad Hussain. The other members of the team are Anamul Haq Bijoy, Tawhid Ridoy, Sheikh Mahdi Hassan, Nasum Ahmed, Mustafiz Rahman, Tanzim Hassan Saqib and Tanzid Hassan Tamim. To end the news, the main points again. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina leaves Dhaka for New York tomorrow to attend the 78th session of the United Nations General Assembly. President Mohammad Shahabuddin returns home, wrapping up his visit. Bangladesh Railway successfully completes test run of a freight train today between Mawa and Bhanga via Podda Bridge. Canadian Senator Salma Ataullah highly lauds Bangladesh's development under leadership of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un inspects Russian warplanes and other military installations. And Sri Lanka to face India in the Asia Cup 2023 final in Colombo tomorrow. That's it from the newsroom for now. Thank you for being with us. If you can, please do join us for our 11:30 news in Bangla. Until then, please keep your homestead clean to be safe from dengue. Khuda Hafiz.